You're posting. You're speaking. You're doing everything they told you would grow your business. So why is it not converting? Because visibility is only half the equation. Getting attention is easy. Turning that attention into clients takes strategy. VoiceLab was built to solve that. This is where front-end visibility meets back-end conversion. You learn how to get on stages, create your own platforms, and use podcasts, summits, and workshops to grow your audience and generate real leads. Then you learn what most people never build. A system that captures those leads, follows up, nurtures relationships, and turns interest into revenue. Email and newsletter strategy that actually gets responses. Workflows, not just more noise. Real connection that leads to real business. Inside VoiceLab, you are not guessing. You're learning the how. You're implementing in real time. You're building a business that works even when you are not constantly chasing attention. Because here's the truth. If you don't have visibility, no one knows you exist. If you don't have systems, nothing converts. VoiceLab gives you both, so you can stop performing for attention and start building momentum that pays you back. If you are ready to grow your authority, expand your reach, and finally turn visibility into income, join the VoiceLab. Scan the QR code, join VoiceLab Group on the school platform, and build the business that actually works.
Digital Speaker Agent will catch 5 speaker opportunities, bring them back, and help you submit each one in under 10 minutes. You can go from opportunity to submitted in 7 clicks. Here's how. Click 1, open today's opportunities. Click 2, accept an opportunity. 3, confirm acceptance. 4, open your pipeline. 5, open the event website and submission info. Click 6, activate the stage and custom Chrome extension. 7, review and submit. That's 5 done for you speaker submissions in under an hour. Click the QR code for your free 7-day trial.
Welcome to a world of unforgettable experiences and immersive marketing. Transform your events into extraordinary moments that captivate your audience. Whether it's corporate gatherings, product launches, or community celebrations, our immersive marketing solutions elevate your events to new heights. Immerse your attendees in a world of audio books and podcasts tailored to your brand. Engage their senses and leave a lasting impression. Explore the power of storytelling with our curated podcast content. From insightful discussions to entertaining narratives, we've got the perfect audio experience for your event. Ready to make your next event unforgettable? Scan the QR code now and book a complimentary immersive marketing call with our experts. Let's create memories together. Elevate your events with immersive marketing. Scan the code and let the magic begin.
All right. And it's Wednesday morning. Welcome back to the Pain Point Podcast. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nicole Borghi. And on the Pain Point Podcast, we're going to bring the perfect blend and insight of entertainment and dive into online solutions for entrepreneurs. We're also going to report a little bit of the latest snippets of what's going on in the entrepreneurial world, or how it pertains really to solutions to your business's pain point, keeping it as simple as possible, and really just bring in a little light and a little shine in here. And those of you who don't know me, I'm Nicole Borghi. I am an event to scale visibility leader. What do I like to do? If you're still grinding and you're feeling like you're the internet's best kept secret, that's a stage problem. And that's where I come in. I build virtual events for you that fix that fast, create done for you, done with you, virtual events that are going to build authority. That's workshops, master classes, summits. We have a great summit coming up today, a little bit of the plot twist, and it's the plot twist of gathering. I'm excited for it. Yesterday, we had such a great and wonderful event with all the wonderful speakers. We had a live speaker panel yesterday. Trying to bring my camera over here. I've got 2 screens, so I want to make sure I'm looking at you, babe. Right? So the plot twist of gathering, what is that all about? It's about those story branders, right? The orators, Those people that want to tell a story. Maybe you started with your book, or you're looking at starting with your book and bringing that into light. How do you do that? What's the story? So if you're an audience member, what are you going to get? You're going to get to hear not only these wonderful stories that are going on, but the experience of the journey and the process of publishing. Yesterday, we had the great Mary Farias come on and talk about the anthology that she's working on, the creator economy creators community that she has, along with this anthology. We had, and she's been developing. She is the founder of Iris Blue Publishing. And what's important about that is that she's done this for quite a while. She's owned businesses, owned a gymnastics business, and kind of started on the journey of her story. And she shares with authors, what is that journey like? What's the process like, and what's the community? But really, our thought is to get out there and market. We had great people like Carrie Wu, who is an AI specialist, and bringing technology to creatives to make their life easier so they can truly have their own unique voice, but also have an easier process. And when you have the right tools in your pocket, you're going to be able to do that. We also had Colleen Stubbs on there, who is going to talk about, she's going to bring a little bit more of that charm in there and that wit, because you know what? CRMs aren't that fun, right? Putting your social media, scheduling your social media isn't fun. And as an author and a speaker, you've got a lot going on and you want to stay in that creative mode. But when you're out there, sometimes it's a little bit odd out there in that world. I'm going to build that website. And we have this great offering, and I want to share that with you guys as well. And I'll share this all in the chat. We had When the Page Speaks. We started that offer today, and I want to share that with you because these are our sponsors this week for what we're bringing in. And it's really to bring that author message, establish authority. You get guided book creation, build the digital machine, and you're going to build your digital home, custom author website. Wouldn't you like to just let someone else do that? Delegate to somebody else that's going to trust you and support you as an author. Sometimes it's hard to find as a creative myself. It's hard to find people that you can work with that really get that from you and understand what you've got going on in the bigger picture, but really let you stand out and shine. We also have what I'm sharing is amplifying your voice. So if you're doing a workshop, you want to do a video recording of your chapters in your book, you want to do an audible type of recording to share with your membership group, or to just add a little spice maybe to your weekly newsletter, or have a giveaway for people. We're going to do the author launchpad. So check that out in there. I'm excited to share this. And the digital speaker app, you guys, get that. You want to get paid to speak? People ask me all the time, and it's very important. I want you to stand out and shine. So let me bring our guest in here today. I'm excited to have her on, and I'll put all the information in the chat. And today I have the wonderful Orly Zeewy. Did I say that right? Am I getting closer?
Very close, but it's Orly Zeewy. Yes.
Zeewy. Okay. Okay, gotcha. All right. So, Orly, go ahead and share with people about what you do, because you are talking about bringing clarity to people's messages. And this is important because when we want to stand out in the virtual space as entrepreneurs, there's so much going on, and we need to attract attention. And we're not all going to get on TikTok and do a little dance, and not all of us should. But when people do that, where are you coming from on this? And share with people a little bit about what you do as an entrepreneur to help people attract more of their clients.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Nicole. It's nice to be here. So the thing that we need to remember is we're being overwhelmed by tens of thousands of daily messages, and they're coming at us 24/7. There's literally like no respite. And the content is basically, most of it, of course, is being created and consumed on social media. What I do is I'm focused on solopreneurs and small business owners who are really getting lost in all that noise, to help them cut through the noise with messaging that converts conversations to leads and views into scrolls and clicks, so they can attract more of the ideal clients and grow their business. It's the reason I created my Clarity Hour, which is a monthly webinar that I run every third Thursday. was designed specifically for solopreneurs and small businesses. And we focus on the three areas that really need your attention, which is your elevator pitch, your LinkedIn profile, and your website, and specifically your homepage, because that's where people begin their journey on your site.
I love that. Yeah, where are they starting and where are they going and where do you want people to go, right? Where do you want to send people? So I'm going to be putting the information and the links in here. So let's get to the, more of this because if you're clear in your message should kind of resonate and be targeted to the audience, but you also want it to be consistent everywhere you're going because it can be out there everywhere all the time. And you don't want Instagram and TikTok and YouTube to be totally different because then people won't relate to you if they cross over to the platforms. And that does cross over, whether people like to admit it or not, really comes out in a networking event because one week you're doing one thing and the next week you're doing something different. And people are like, what? I don't get it. They want to get a little bit deeper. So when people are sharing that, what really gets attention to action? Because if people want to get a clear solution, and I love that you're sharing that Zoom where you have people meet with you and get into a room and get those solutions and kind of workshop those ideas out. Can they come with their own idea and come to you, the expert, to really clarify their message and stand out?
Well, the clarity hour is really meant more as an introduction to clarity and the value of clarity. And each month we focus on a different aspect of your brand. So this month, actually, the next one is actually tomorrow, June 18th. It's always, like I said, the third Thursday of every month from noon to 1 Eastern time. But so each month we focus on a different aspect. So when I focus on LinkedIn, what I'm really, we're going to talk about what does it look like when you have clarity. So I share before and afters, and then I do kind of real-time reviews of people's LinkedIn. And then, like I said, and then another month we'll be doing elevator pitches. So the thing that's really key is that you understand that no one has time to figure out who you are. No one has time to unpack lots of text and lots of content. They just want to know specifically, and I'm thinking about your homepage, they only want to know two things. Why am I here? Why should I care? Because the truth is, you've got maybe 6 seconds of my time before I move on to something else. It's not to say that we can't pay attention more than 6 seconds, but 6 seconds is kind of the magical amount of time that you have, which is why homepages so often shut people down because there's so much content and no one's going to read it. So it's literally just a waste of time and space. Instead, really focus on what's the outcome that your clients get from working with you. I did want to mention one other thing. So I am not an expert in TikTok or Instagram. My focus, because I work with B2B business owners, I focus on LinkedIn and websites. And then, like I said, the elevator pitch, because those are really the three key areas that my clients struggle with in terms of helping people understand what they do, who they help, and what those people get.
Right, but yeah, but you're finding that clarity. So no matter what site people go to, you're the expert at helping them hone their message so they can take that cross-platform. So that's very good for people, I think, is really to come in, to get the feeling, to share the message. It helps you with visibility. So you're always branding and marketing yourself. And so what's the difference for people between the message that gets attention and the message that gets action? Do you help people with that? Because they're talented people, but they need to stand out a little bit. But in this AI craze right now, we need to be unique. You don't need to stand on your head, but you really do need to get some type of action taker that you want to draw in.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to address one thing that you mentioned. So TikTok is for the 18 to 25-year-old. So if you don't have clients who are in the 18 to 25-year-old space, it's really not the space to be in. That's part of why I don't go there. It's not to say you can't do TikToks, but it works. The people who are consuming it are 18 to 25-year-old. It's like 60%. Just wanted to mention that.
Right. That's good for people to know, but it's in this conversation we're having to share with people that there's so much that's out there and that your message needs to be clear and it needs to be clear across all paths. So absolutely, I'm right with you. And people understand that. So if they're looking for a TikTok expert, that's not you. That's fine. So so do you work on LinkedIn?
Like I said, I
Yeah.
focus on
Okay.
LinkedIn and on
Perfect.
websites. Those are my two, and then elevator pitches. But LinkedIn,
Fantastic.
so LinkedIn is
Fantastic.
really, because LinkedIn is the first place anybody goes. If you're in the B2B space and you're in the service industry, you're a consultant, a coach, author, speaker, the first thing that people do is they go to your LinkedIn profile. And here are the things that you need
Right.
to understand. Your headline cannot just be, here's what I do, and I have these degrees. The headline has to have a hook, and the hook has to be related to what you offer. So my headline starts with, I make fuzzy clear, because I call myself a facilitator of light bulb moments, because for me, getting from the fuzzy to clear, that's the space I'm in. So if that's something you're struggling with, it's just enough to say, oh, I want to learn more. So the advice I give my clients, and of course, I offer a LinkedIn optimization package. I do there's a whole process around that. But the key thing to start with is understand that your headline is typically the first thing people will look at after they see your headshot. And then they'll look at your banner. But what I see also with the banner is that people tend to put a lot of stuff in there. And it's the same thing I was saying with your homepage. Putting a lot of information does not help you. In fact, it has the opposite effect, which it shuts people down. And people spend on LinkedIn at the top of your profile, they spend no more than around 5 to 7 seconds before they decide whether or not to keep scrolling. And the goal of your LinkedIn profile is to keep people scrolling, because scrolling is engagement. The more people engage, the more likely they are to want to start a conversation with you. And the last thing I want to say around this is that your goal is not to sell your offer. Your goal is to lead people to your solutions. But in order to do that, people have to understand what you do, who you help, and what they get.
Fantastic. Absolutely. So once you are clear on your message on the LinkedIn platform, and people can find you because you really want to share what's in it for you, right? So if we stay on that and you want to attract those right clients, right? You want to get to those people that are your clients. If you're confident and you're clear, you're going to attract those people. You've got that script ready to go. Maybe in your life, you're journaling. What are you looking for? You have that high ticket out there. You want to put that out on the platform, and we just want to simplify the life. So when you're on a platform like LinkedIn and you want to keep that clarity, when people are posting, so if they have their bio and they have their message sent, what type do you help them get into the posting on that,
Yeah.
into the clear message, any video type of things, and structure that way as well?
I'm not a I mean, there are lots of people who do videos, and I certainly would say that it's important to have a combination of video and images and content in general, but it can be, typically what I suggest is you figure out what your lane is. And like I said, so my lane is fuzzy to clear. It's all about clarity. So the things I talk about have to do with, how do you stand out? What are some of the tips? So you want to really engage with your audience around the things that they care about. And one of the mistakes I see all the time on LinkedIn is that people post things that actually no one cares about. And so they're getting very low engagement. And then the other thing is, of course, aside from having an all-star profile and having, preferably at least a weekly engagement, because that's how you start to build awareness, that you want to make sure that you understand the problems that your ideal client is dealing with. Often people will say to me, well, I don't want to leave anybody out, but the truth is, that you don't become an expert helping everybody. You become an expert when you focus on one particular demographic, a target market that you know is aligned perfectly with what you offer and the solutions that you provide to their specific problems.
Right. You want to talk to your client and you want to have engagement. So when we're getting into that flow for people of what they're doing and how they're doing it, how they're talking to the client, because we've forgotten that it's all about that message, and people get online and they start getting a lot of data. There's a lot of resources out there, sometimes way too many. And when you start going down that data driving rabbit hole, you hear many different things that may not work for your business. So going back to those different platforms and saying, for my entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast and the ones that I work with that are looking to do a little bit of cross platform, they have a strong message and there could be a little bit too much. So it's simple to start with and choose one platform, something like a LinkedIn, and to be able to tweak the message and hone on it, because it's not always going to hit right that first time, especially if you're starting to get clear. Does it take time? Is there a period of time that you're looking at that you give people and say, hey, this may take 30 days or it may take 6 months, but let's put this out there and here's what you're looking to do as far as getting engagement?
Well, I actually have found, so I created a breakthrough intensive, which is a 90-minute intensive. And honestly, I have found that even doing that in that amount of time, you will start to see a shift in the kinds of people that come to you. So no, it does not take 30 to 60 days. It should only take a few days. And when I've done the full, when my clients have gone through the full LinkedIn optimization, within days, they're getting qualified leads, and they're getting requests from people they actually want to either collaborate with, work with, or want to be referred by. So no, when you do it right, it does not take that long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like it's a lot of a quicker turnaround. Are you sharing with them tips like engagement, how to do DMs, get in, sneak in people's little DMs, slide in there and say, hey, talk to people, and engage with other people? What does that kind of look like?
So I'm really the person. So you're talking about, there's also like social media managers who really help you with, some of the things that you're talking about are more about how to utilize LinkedIn. And I do some of that, more around like who you should be following, the types of people you should follow, how you should engage with them. In terms of, sneaking into DMs, that's not really my area of expertise. But what I do is I help them really get started so they start to see this engagement. And honestly, it's not about tricks, for me. It's really about being authentic, being genuine, being consistent, being clear, and making sure that you've identified who your ideal client is before you do anything, and then really understand what is the solution you're providing. And I think a big disconnect that I have found is that people don't take the time to really understand the solution they're providing, who needs it, how it impacts their life, how it transforms their business. If you don't know those things, then it's just about throwing things up against the wall and seeing what sticks. That's not a recipe for success.
So if you're looking at that, what does that look like with you? Are you saying, so if I'm saying, if I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who are looking at getting on the stage, to leverage getting on the stage, so having conversations on podcast or having conversations and speaking at virtual events, getting paid to speak live events. But part of that marketing that we have to do ourselves, or even hire somebody or bring in someone like you that can help us restructure that. What does that look like? Does that look like, should I be following other speakers, or should I follow other people, if I'm doing video editing, do I follow other editors, or what type of people am I looking to follow?
Well, you don't want to really follow people who are your competition. I mean, what you really want is to follow people who hire you. So if you're a speaker, you want to be looking at event planners. You want to do the research of which are the conferences or events that would be a good fit for what you talk about, and then go find those people, see who those event planners are, and then follow them and see what they talk about, then engage, because the engagement is really about showing your expertise without selling. And I think that's a slippery slope for a lot of people. They think that engagement means, well, let me talk about my services. No, it's really to show your expertise so people start to think of you. So the idea is that, if I need a video editor and there's somebody who's been engaging on my post around, with information, with tips about how to do great edits, how you can videotape your talk in a way that's going to get more views, or it's like you need to show before you sell. You need to engage, and you need to engage with information and content that's going to be helpful to your ideal customers.
Okay, so that makes sense because we see a lot of people that follow other people and they're just like, it's like, oh, I'm not that good, or I don't feel that good. It's, stirs up the pot, or hey, I'm better. And they're kind of, fighting for a spot with these people and they want to sound better. So you're not working with your competition, which is going to make life a lot easier. I think it really lightens the load. And it's such a good thing to hear you say that, for people to say, look, this is what I'm looking for. And that's what people really miss. And that's something that they can get with you is people just start talking to people, just start posting, get in a posting party. Well, if I'm in a posting party with someone, maybe they're my clients, maybe they're not, but we're engaging and perhaps they know people that are my clients, so we can have some type of conversation. And I look at it like, when you're engaging, always go back to your zone of genius. For me, it seems like I want to go back to my zone of genius and answer, if you're doing this, hey, if you have clarity and you feel like, if somebody's talking about meditation or exercise, I look at it like, hey, exercise is great, because when you come on the stage, you feel fit, you feel healthy, you feel happy, and your mind's clear. So I look at it from kind of like that stage presence of where that's going to get you, to try and make it more relatable, to bring that conversation in. And I think that's great to see, hey, you're not here in the competition, but you get to know those people. So that is really great, to share with people, to say, hey, let's get in there, let's talk about what we can do, or how we can work together, or how I can help you without that. Because at some point, they're going to need to get on a call, right? At some point, you
Well,
might
yeah,
want to ask somebody for a call.
right. I mean, the goal is, to get, I mean, and this is what happens, right? Eventually, you get on people's radar. I mean, when people post, and this is the other thing that I always talk about, is when people post on, or respond to your post, which is, of course, one of the goals of posting. It's not just to put stuff out there, but to get engagement and people hopefully reposting and commenting. Then if they're not already in your network, that's your opportunity to reach out and say, hey, thank you for engaging on my post. I took a look at your profile, would love to connect, and then you slowly bring those into conversation. And then eventually, there's different ways, right, that you can start those conversations. So I offer a complimentary 20-minute discovery call, because that's the way for me to understand kind of what they're struggling with. And then from there, maybe I invite them to my clarity hour. And then from there, maybe they sign up for a 90-minute intensive. So you're bringing people slowly. You don't just immediately go into a high ticket item, because people aren't ready for that. And that's not how we buy. We like to first learn about the person. It's that whole know, like, and trust. And so if you can, it's the idea is that LinkedIn is a place where you can start to show your expertise without selling.
Exactly. And I think it's kind of taking over that engagement is a way for people to kind of, in a sense, if you think about it, walk into your shop. If you had a brick and mortar, you're
Mhm.
going into the shop, you're talking to the owner or maybe a manager or team member, some type of customer service, and you're having an interaction of what they're selling. You're asking them maybe about pricing or how this works. If you're going into a UPS store and you want to mail something, do I need to get this envelope or do I need to send it in that envelope? Why would I send it? So those questions that you can ask that person in the UPS store, you're kind of looking at it like that engagement here. What are you sharing? What are you offering? People want little nuggets. And it also takes place, in which we talked about before, is that website that had everything on it, right? You had your about page, your products page, your blogs on there. It's got everything, and it's good if people need to go down there. There's places you want to redirect people to, but that's a lot of information. And so if we're talking about little chunks, and I think those little chunks are kind of like little text or little post-it notes of goodies that you want to share with people, and you don't need to get into a long, drawn-out conversation, and they really want to share that with people and say, hey, this is what's happening in the world, and you can have that conversation because you do ultimately want to get to that sale. But once they trust you, once they get to you, and understand that brand, and getting out there, it's all about visibility. And if you continue to have that visibility and they trust you, you're saying that kind of same thing over and over. So when you're posting and you're putting stuff out there, you can always reuse, repurpose the information that you have, maybe change a heading, or people won't remember it in 30 days, right? But still reach out to people and still connect to people. So it's not that just posting and spraying something everywhere and then have no connection. I think that's a huge thing that we kind of miss, especially those over 40, saying, hey, how does this kind of social media work how do I integrate it into my entrepreneurial business? How does this work? I don't just post and let it go. I've talked to a lot of people that get in there, and maybe if you could speak to this a little bit, to say, I had talked to a lady that had a page and she was just posting. She's like, I get no engagement. And I asked her, well, how are you engaging to other people's pages? Are you sharing with people consistently? Or are you just getting in there one time and then you forget that person? So is there some type of strategy that people need to have? Maybe should they have a spreadsheet of certain people to look at each week? Or is it just, hey, who pops up in your feed?
Well, I mean, you have hopefully more than a few connections. So my suggestion is always, you want to revisit those connections and take a look and see when was the last time you interacted with them. A good way to do that, by the way, is, I mean, LinkedIn provides you the opportunity when someone has, and this is something that I do pretty consistently as well, somebody has a promotion, they just got a new job. All you have to do is just say, hey, congratulations. Excuse me. I see that, you since we last spoke, that's so great. Haven't talked to you in a while. Hey, why don't we hop on a call and catch up? That's an easy way to do that. And so again, there are opportunities, but it's not about, you're not, I mean, I don't have a spreadsheet because I have, more than 4,200 followers and I have more than 3,600 connections. So I don't have a spreadsheet of all those people. But what I do instead is make sure that I'm getting notified when people in my network, and this you can actually set up in LinkedIn, so you get notified from people that you want to stay in touch with. LinkedIn makes that very easy so that you're able to find out when they've gotten promotion, they switched jobs, they've just had a birthday, something is going on. I mean, and again, engaging is not always about selling. It's just about staying top of mind with the people who would be good, either good clients or good referrals, good strategic partners for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of like, keep people top of mind, right? It's just look at it like I look at it like a little bit of a cheat. Hey, you're congratulating people. LinkedIn notifies you, hey, on the notifications, somebody has having a birthday, or somebody is at 5 years on their anniversary. You could go into that and you're like, hey, just congratulations. And then they're going to pop back up on your feed. Maybe you can have a conversation in LinkedIn. Not looking for a best friend. I would suggest to people like, hey, if you want to have a conversation, LinkedIn is still based on business. We're not based on, all that information. For me, I say I like to get on a call with people and have a conversation. I'm a little bit of a different person. I'm a little bit of a different personality. I like to have a sense of humor. And remember, yes, it's about business. It should be about business, but we always need to relax in those conversations and not push it too far. We are having that a conversation. Things will come out in the end. And so let's get on a call and talk about that and get to know people. Hey, maybe they're not your client, but they can refer you to other people within your circle, and that you can say, hey, this is the type of person that I'm looking for. And if you suggest that to people in a networking group, then they easily can connect you on LinkedIn and grow that. So what does that look like for you? You've got a lot of people on your LinkedIn page, and they're not all your besties, right? And you can't always keep up with them. When people are looking at pushing the engagement, should you just connect to people to connect to them? Or are you still honing in on that, hey, these are people in my circle that I want to either work with as a collaborative effort, be able to refer to, or bring on as a client?
Well, no, to answer your question, no, I do not connect with everybody, and I also don't accept every connection. A lot of them are pitch slaps, which I think we're all familiar with. They're already selling you, and they've not read anything on your profile, so those I ignore. But in terms of who I connect with, I look at several things. One is, how many connections do they have? Are any of their connections part of my network? Because I do not connect typically with people who I have no joint connections with. And then also, if you have less than 500 connections, that's not a good person for me to connect with. And also, how long they've been in business, and how often are they posting. So you need to do some reconnaissance there to look at each person's profile to determine whether, because it's not just about adding people, right? I mean, anybody can do that. You can go connect with everybody, although I know that LinkedIn dings you. If you try to do too many, then you can end up in LinkedIn jail. So you want to be careful about that. But what I have found is it's really about making sure that this person is aligned either with people who are in my network that I can refer them to, or they could be a good strategic partner, not necessarily a client, but this is why you need to be prepared, right, to have the conversation based on what you've read, because otherwise it's just you poaching or, fishing for people. And everybody can sense that a mile away. So you want to be really careful. And again, I think the more research you do, the more you really focus on, again, if I understand who I'm really looking for and who they can connect me with, that narrows the field, because it's not everybody. And I'm not in the B2C space, I'm in the B2B space, business to business, not business to consumer. So I'm looking for people who are in the service industry, whatever that looks like. And so that narrows the field too. And so the other thing is, I'm not going to connect with people who are so far away from what I do, because I'm not going to be able to help them either, because this is a reciprocal thing. It's got to be a two-way street where you feel like I'm not just connect, because everybody knows if you connect to somebody, eventually there's going to be a conversation where you're going to talk about sales. But I look at it more in terms of, how can we help each other? How can we refer each other? Who can I connect you with?
Well, absolutely. I think that's a great way to look at it, because there's people that connect, and sometimes it's kind of iffy if we're connecting, but I want to give them a chance and connect. But on my page personally, it's all about speaking and growing your audience, gaining leads, getting visibility. So I host a lot of events. So I share with people the events, and of course, I'm going to share with my people on my list and invite people, to events. And I love the ignore button. So if it's not an event you can attend or an event that in your mind, you can always hit ignore button. And I want to share that with people as a caution. I would say we've just had that conversation with a client the other day and let them know that if you're connected truly to the right group of people, they will understand that as an event host, I'm just using myself as an example. As an event host, I'm going to invite you to an event. So it works that way. There's a strategy, there's a structure. Same with my email list. You're welcome to unsubscribe if you don't want to hear about events, if you don't want to get on the stage, you don't want to get paid to speak, you don't want to get on a podcast, you don't want to join the Voice Lab and learn more about speaking tips and tricks and visibility and marketing yourself. That's fine. That's absolutely okay. So letting people know that that's all right. So we don't need to have that it's about business. And I think what you're sharing is really it is business. So that's what we're here for. And I really like that you say, hey, these are my people. This is my group of people. This is not my group of people. So if you're growing your audience, those people know that you're sharing that message. And we need to remember that. It's very easy on social media to forget and get so caught up in in weird conversations or in a mindset, but to remember that you can always hit ignore. Nobody's going to get upset. It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. Nobody even knows if you hit that button or not. It's a super secret only you button, or you can accept. And if you do accept, you don't necessarily have to show up. It's just conversation. So it's just, for me, it's just remembering that this is social media. This is not your life. I don't go home to LinkedIn, right? I utilize it as a tool. And if we remember that it's a good tool, it's a good tool used correctly. And if we share that it's not Facebook, we don't need to have a million friends that we don't know that are going to share those messages. And hey, you can always unconnect or unfollow if it's just not a good working relationship. It's okay. And I think we have better, healthier conversations. It's kind of like going into a networking group and say, oh, what kind of cat or dog do you have? Or, oh, what's your favorite color? Not sure what that has to do about business. But if we're just having a fun conversation in the room together just to kind of move stuff along, or we're getting ready to transition to a speaker and we have a few minutes, maybe we're just asking a few questions. Does that really resonate in a room when you're trying to get to know somebody because you're so worried about talking about something that doesn't have anything to do with business or getting to know you? I don't know, because I'm not buying you. If you like green, I'm not buying you a green shirt and sending it to you. So for me, I look at it like, can we get back to the strategy? And that's why I like what you do when we first have that conversation, is that there's a strategy and a structure and a forethought to what you do to make life so much easier, because people take on all of this and they want to just put it everywhere, and people have been told, I know clients that come to me and people that I work with and collaborate with, they got to be on every, they got to be on every platform. It doesn't necessarily resonate, but if you're looking at it from a whole, where does your message stand strong? And I think that's really the best way. So when you're on LinkedIn and it doesn't work like Facebook, I see a lot of people transitioning off of Facebook right now, which is great, because Facebook will give you tools that are fantastic for your business or for connection or for marketing, and then they'll take it away. And then you have groups where you can make money. If you remember years ago, people were on it and they locked people out of their groups. They didn't have leads, they didn't have email lists, they didn't have phone numbers. And so people lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars when Facebook did that tragic thing. But they still stayed true on Facebook. And I think business is totally different because it's more of a connection on a personal level. I think it's hard to do business. And bringing people, how do we look at, or do you look at and have this conversation with people, sharing with them the importance, if we're just talking business and connection and building relationship, the difference between why LinkedIn works so much better as an entrepreneur.
Well, first of all, you brought up a lot of points. So I want to address a couple of them. One is that I really, really strongly recommend that you pick one platform. I think there are hundreds of platforms. And the problem is that so often it's that the next shiny thing that people see, and they're thinking like, oh, I need to be on TikTok. No, you don't. You really don't. I mean, unless that's your audience, and unless, this is the product somehow relates to 18 to 25-year-olds. But, you need to do the research and figure out one platform. The biggest mistake I see is people trying to be on 5 different platforms. And there's only one where they're going to have any substantial number of followers. And that's the one you want to be in, because that's the one that clearly that's where your people are. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The other question you had was around how to stand out on LinkedIn. Was that the question? I'm sorry, I kind of got lost in what you were saying there. But you're muted, Nicole.
Yep, thank you. I like to press the buttons. So that's okay. I think basically for that final clarity is that really when people are on LinkedIn, it's about business. It's not about what you ate for lunch. It's not about your salad. It's not about who you saw at the corner
Right,
store.
right. Yep, I got it. So the thing about LinkedIn is, first of all, it's not about you. And I know that's going to sound really strange, but ultimately it is not about you. It is about how you serve others and what people get from working with you. So the mistake that I see, and I think this is this is a big stumbling block for people, they spend all their time trying to sell or trying to, promote themselves or what they've done. And I follow the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, it really should be about information, content that's relevant to your ideal customers. And then 20% you can promote, program or a new offer that you have or something that's changed on your website. But because it's business focused, you want to think about not just that it's business, but that it's about the people that you want to work with. And so that's why I suggest that you spend some time looking at some of those posts and some of those profiles and read through them and get a sense of what are people really posting and looking at. And going back to a comment you made earlier about looking at your competition, I look at competition in terms of trying to understand what's top of mind in my industry, not to copy what they're doing, but to think about, it sounds like this is something that people are interested in. So it gives me some pause and I think, okay, maybe I would like to kind of comment on that. So I'll either comment on their post in that respect. But again, it's not business. When we talk about business, it's the business of engagement, not the business of selling.
Absolutely. And when we're looking at engagement different, and I think that for me it's the sense of it's different relationships, different engagements that we're looking at. There's all types of relationships that we have, and looking at, just because it is a social media platform, it is social for business. It is not social for friends or what you're looking at. Maybe you do start to work together and get to know somebody in a long term and you have a great collaboration. That is a different relationship. And there's some even networking spaces that get on LinkedIn and share networking that is virtual, and they do live events as well. So you get to have that cross platform connection, and those are happen that way. And I think it's really seeing that people are getting back to business, and that's what I like when you're looking into this as a strategy, and we're looking at business relationships and business building, is that we can actually get back to business and hopefully kind of cure what's going on in the networking, and we can develop this relationship if we have a strategy, a structure, and we develop it as a habit of you're on here how many times a day, posting, engaging, putting some time on your schedule to make sure that you do that 10 minutes here, maybe 15 minutes there, however it works out for your schedule, and really sharing that you're building these relationships and it becomes a habit in your business, and we need to get back to that. And that way when we go to networking events, I don't know about you, but it's come back a little bit in 2026 to be more business oriented instead of kind of that weird sense of, I guess it was more of, I kind of don't know what the term would be for it, but I don't know about you, but I saw a lot in the last few years, a lot of people just coming in that didn't have a business, didn't have a brand, weren't on social media, didn't want to engage, didn't want to do video, and they didn't have a clear message. So I think with what you do on LinkedIn comes into networking, right? I mean, if you've been doing this for a minute, we're going to see those messages change, and I think that helps with those conversations when you're in a breakout room.
Well, if you get your headline right, that's the first step to building your elevator pitch. So basically, when you're networking, you also want to think that you've got 15 seconds. And that's the other thing I see a lot of in networking, that people just go on and on about stuff that really we don't care about. And if you remember that the average attention span is around 6 seconds, the average human attention span is about 6 seconds. 15 seconds is already more than double our attention span. So even if you have more time, I would keep it to 15 seconds, because that's when you're going to be able to really get your message across. So part of what I work with, when I work with my clients, part of what I help them do is to get really clear and really succinct. How quickly can you get me to understand something core about what your clients get from you? Again, it's not about what I do, but it's how I help my clients achieve something that's going to transform their business. And so that's, when you're in a networking space and a breakout room, that's what you should be focusing on. Not explaining what you do, not talking about your latest win, not talking about how great your program is, but really stay focused on how you help your ideal clients solve a problem that transforms their business.
Absolutely. I think that's great for those conversations because it makes you more memorable. When people are like, yeah, I get that message. That's what I want. This, helps me to refer people out and have a strong message. So as we start to wrap up, I do have all your links. I did put all your links in the chat, and share with people where to reach you, how to connect with you, especially find Orly on LinkedIn. Of course, she's the master there. I love that with her expertise and what she shared. Any last takeaways on what you'd really like people to learn or get, and maybe help them find some change and transformation on to build their best LinkedIn account?
Well, I would say, again, start with who do you serve and what do they need? And what's the solution that they're looking for? If you start from their perspective instead of yours, you're going to be able to not just come up with, a way to connect with people more effectively, but also it'll help you figure out who you want to engage with, the lane that you want to be in. So I say to my clients, pick a lane and pick 3 to 5 topics in that lane and do not deviate from that lane. In terms of posting, at least once a week. I think people get a little nuts thinking they have to do this every day or twice a day. When you're starting out, as long as you're consistent, and the best days to post on LinkedIn are Tuesdays and Thursdays morning, like somewhere from 10 to 2. Those are really optimal times. As long as you're doing it on a consistent basis, eventually what you're going to find is that people start to respond because they're kind of looking for this, especially if you're leading with information that's helpful and not about selling you. And I would also say that a big part of this is that if I could change one thing in this moment, is to this obsession with tactics before strategy. You've mentioned the word strategy several times. Businesses don't need more tactics. What they need is a clear, authentic message that helps the right people connect with their story. And what I'm also have found, and I'm sure you see this too many businesses jump into social media, SEO, website, AI tools before they can clearly articulate who they help, what problem they solve, and why it matters. Marketing works best when clarity comes first. And when you have a clear message, whether it's on your website or on your LinkedIn or whatever social media platform you're on, every tactic becomes more effective.
I love that. I love that. All right. So make it more effective. There's some takeaways you can take away here now and get to that clarity hour. That information's in there and get some assistance there with Orly. Get clear on your message. Absolutely. I would love to see that. Let people know what they're talking about, who they're talking to, and have a better, more focused conversation so we can build more trust and get out of that trust recession, and stop being attention deficit. If you are deficit of attention and you want attention, we've got to have better conversations. I think that's great. Any final takeaways from you, Orly, in these last few minutes?
In terms of what I think people are struggling with right now is I'm not sure that people understand how overwhelmed everyone is by the sheer number of messages that are coming at us and the fact that there's literally no escape from them. We are both consuming and creating content at a rate that's just, it's untenable. I mean, if you combined all the subscribers on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, you're looking at about 7 billion people, somewhere around that, right? Which is insane. There's about 8.5 billion people on the planet. So the thing I want you to remember is you are fighting a losing battle if you're just trying to put more stuff out there, which is why I recommend, instead of posting all the time, be really mindful about what you're posting. Be really mindful about who you want to attract. Everyone is not your client. If you speak to everyone, you connect to no one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great takeaways, and make it a lot easier. Just remember who you're speaking to. And that's one good takeaway for today and a place to start. So when you are done watching this podcast, go ahead and start to clarify, start to connect and connect better. All right, let's build better relationships. You guys, today, don't forget, we have the Plot Twist, a gathering summit, and great speakers, authors, publishers, good marketing value there. So we've got all the publishing goodies you need and all these great orators ready to share their wonderful story. All right. Thank you guys. All right. See you later in